Paul Keels is our guest today, the voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. I was listening last night. This ought to be very familiar for you, to you and Thad on the call-in show, and he made a remark about some of the kids didn't know that they were in first place. I mean, to his bigger point that they have their minds on other things, and basketball isn't always first. Did you find that to be a little bit surprising when he said that?
A little bit, not entirely. I think what they've really kind of conditioned themselves, and some of it again because of the result of being rated highly in the polls and all of that. You know, after Saturday's game in Nebraska was done, their attention immediately focused to Penn State, which is their next game tomorrow night. So that wasn't entirely surprising. You want to believe that was probably the exception rather than the rule, but didn't realize that they had moved into a tie for first place. But I think what it also speaks to, Ryan, is the fact that, okay, they're in first place now. That doesn't really mean a whole lot right now. It only matters, when the regular season comes to an end and you're getting ready for the conference tournament. So it wasn't entirely surprising, but I think some of that is because of the culture that these coaches have tried to create and make them focus on what's next rather than, what's out there that they can't really have a whole lot to do with for the time being.
That makes a lot of sense when you explain it that way. I was in Kansas for the game against the Jayhawks, and one of the things that struck me, now obviously they didn't have Sullinger, but one of the things that struck me as interesting was Kansas clearly decided that they were going to deny the basketball whenever Kraft brought the ball up the floor. And it seemed to me like they just didn't make an adjustment. If Kraft would have taken the ball to the hoop more, he probably could have drawn the defense over and really started the offense. They never seemed to get that going. Is that more about Kraft's limitation offensively, or was that just an adjustment that wasn't made?
Well, I think you can say it's an adjustment that wasn't made. Certainly he has the ability to go to the basket and score. I think maybe you give Kansas a little credit for stopping that. But the adjustment within all of that, if you remember, Ryan, was William Buford started creating some offense for himself and especially doing it down low. He's a guy that for most of his career we've seen William score from the outside. But you saw him start to make something happen down low under the basket, and Deshaun Thomas kept going. So Aaron Kraft probably in that game tried to put more pressure on himself offensively with Sullinger out, and you noticed him taking a few more outside shots than what he normally would. He's got the ability to go to the basket, but he certainly was somebody that Kansas was very aware of. And, you want to think that probably what they did was try to deny him, but it opened up the opportunities for Buford to get some things down low. And if you look back at that game, too, as much as it handcuffed Ohio State without Jared Sullinger, they certainly had a chance late in that game playing without him to maybe have a chance of trying to win that game.
Yeah, I thought Kraft's defense was tremendous, and I thought that, like you said, Buford started getting the ball out past the three-point line and just decided, look, I'm going to make something happen. When you talk about Buford, where does this guy project? I mean, is he a lottery pick? I mean, is he a second-round guy? Where is he going to fall?
Yeah, I don't think he's a lottery pick. You're probably looking at second round. Now, all of that could change based on the rest of the year. William is, more than anything, the challenge he faces is consistency. He's shown he's had the ability to score in bunches. He's shown that he's got a good outside shot. Ron Stokes and I have talked a lot about he's such a great free throw shooter. He's over 80% for his career. You'd like to see him put the ball on the floor and go to the basket a little bit more. I think if he shows that he's got the ability to do that, and if he puts together some good postseason games, maybe he gets himself into the first-round category. I don't know about lottery choice, but William Buford is a guy that I think one of the amazing things to watch about him in his progression over his time at Ohio State is that he no longer ties the rest of his game to his offense. You think back to a game they played earlier this year at Iowa. At one point, he was 0 for 10 for the floor, but he was playing solid defense and he was rebounding the devil out of the basketball. And I think that's where you've seen William Buford really grow up as a player.
Paul Keels is our guest today.
Paul, Cody Slayball here. With Ohio State coming off that big win over Nebraska on the road, and now coming home to face a Penn State team that's not necessarily the best team in the Big Ten, do you think this game has the makings of a trap game?
I understand why you asked that, but not sure I'd say it's a trap game. And first and foremost, because I think, Ohio State played Penn State 3 times last year, including in the Big Ten Tournament Championship game. And yes, they're minus a bulk of their, talent from last year, including Taylor Battle. But they've got a great deal of respect for Tim Frazier and what it is that he can do. They also understand that people may or may not be paying attention that they now have the second longest home court winning streak in the country at 36, right behind Kentucky. And it kind of back to what we were talking about earlier about not knowing the first place standings in the Big Ten. This team focuses on what's immediately right in front of them. So based on past experience, based on understanding the importance of taking care of things at home, you really have a hard time thinking that this team will look past a Penn State club remember it was just a week ago that Penn State upset Illinois, who beat Ohio State. So I think that by itself will help get Ohio State's attention.
The voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, is our guest today. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I guess I'll say OH, and we'll talk to you again later in the year come tournament time.
IO. Sounds good, Ryan. You guys take care.